Okay, good morning. Today is Friday, September 6th, 2024. It's 10:29 a.m. Heading to Springhouse Waterworks this morning. Listen, I have, oh man, it's an interesting morning. Really been thinking about my signature talk. That's what I'm going to call it, I guess, for lack of a better description. And I re-recorded it at a slower pace and sent that out there for Chris and Austin. Those are the only two people I've sent it to so far. And I've been really thinking for like the last week that I really want to send this to Jaimungal and from Theories of Everything podcast, because it just so dovetails with what I was thinking that he's interested in as I've listened to his podcast, his YouTube channel, and his and as a guest on another channel where he got to talk about what his thoughts are, and then out of nowhere this morning I opened YouTube after breakfast. Was it after breakfast? Maybe. No, it was before breakfast, after I talked to Chris, I think. Anyway, I just look at YouTube, and right at the top of my feed is a CTMU radio broadcast on YouTube of an episode that was created 2 years ago with Chris Langan, Bernardo Kastrup, and Kurt Jaimungal, who was interviewing them and just getting their back and forth on certain topics. Well, I was amazed because they covered pretty much everything that I talk about in my signature talk. I mean, they went across the whole spectrum from consciousness to some degree, free will, and they talked in their philosophical and technical terms, but then they get into things like feelings and emotions and love and God and even external forces, how they've been impacted by these things, and Bernardo talked about actually feeling like this thing was leading him, I think is the way. I mean, that's a poor description, but it was definitely along that line. And then Kurt shared some of his thoughts and feelings about dealing with anxiety and fear, and both of the guys talked about that. I found that to be absolutely fascinating because I cover that in my observations in the signature talk. So my plan, I think, my plan is I'm going to send an email. Maybe, I don't know if I should send an email or a DM. I don't know how to do this, to be honest with you. Maybe a DM is easier, because I can send a DM and a link, and then you can just open it and click it and do it. Maybe I'll figure out how to do that. But I feel like I need to communicate this to Kurt Jaimungal, because I think it'll resonate, and I also want to reach out to at some point to Chris Langan, because here's what I want to mention to Chris. His CTMU does explain everything. It's a theory of reality and explains everything. And I think you can accurately define, for example, the Christian view of God and Jesus and humans within his CTMU syntax and the way he defines it. The thing is, he also leaves, room for things like reincarnation and I don't know where he's landing on with ETs, but I want to challenge him in this area that we have empirical evidence. We have anecdotal evidence of the impact, the metaphysical impact that the message of the gospel has had on humanity. Now that's anecdotal evidence, and I want to say it's empirical evidence. It's things that's not just historical, but you can go through and research and talk to people today and define and get as objective as you want to be on talking about people who have committed their lives to Christ and what transformational elements took place, because I think that's the proof that's in the pudding, is the transformational aspect. That's the metaphysical signature of what happens when a person becomes a Christ follower. For real. Now there's a lot of, what I want to say. Not everyone that calls himself a Christian is actually a Christian or has actually been committed or, bear the fruit of that. But there is a transformational reality. I know because I experienced it and I saw it with my parents, and hundreds of thousands, millions of people around the world that are alive today have also experienced that. So that is evidence that is right there. Now, CTMU would explain that also, would have to acknowledge that and say that and affirm that as being a telor-directed activity. And if that's the case, then that allows for the narrowing of our focus and understanding on this God that Chris talks about, and helps in the identification of that, which is valid in his theory. His theory allows for that. So if that's the case and his theory allows for that, then I have to ask him, what does he do with that evidence? And where is he going to go with that? Yeah, I'll probably need to refine that quite a bit, but I just wanted to capture this for the moment, because I think it's a good argument. But an argument, it's not like a debate. It's a challenge. It's something that it's a pattern interrupt. It should trigger our thinking. And I get from Chris that he's an open guy. At least that's what he says. He says he's open. So, yeah, that's where we're at with that. I don't know. I am so probably out of my league here talking to these guys. But, I'm not an ignoramus. And I've listened to that signature talk a dozen times or more. And it's consistent. It's articulate. It's cohesive. It's coherent. You read that, you don't have to believe all of the statements, but it presents a compelling case, and it's thematic from start to finish. So it's not a random hodgepodge of ideas. Anyway, all right, well, I'm just about here at my destination. So that's all for this morning. Now I'm going to go enter payments and do some programming maybe, and some regular people type work. All right, here we go.